Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer. For this video, we're going to be going over Duchess's Remembrance Quest in Elden Ring Nightreign. This is going to be an awesome guide for her and how to get her remembrance relics. Keep in mind, you need the old pocket watch to unlock her, which you can get from random expeditions when you start the game. And once you have a memory fragment or two, you'll unlock up to chapter 3, which is where we're going to start at, because that's the first remembrance where you actually have to do stuff. And we're going to go over everything, of course, in detail. Keep in mind you have to hand the old pocket watch to the priestess. We're going to start now at chapter 3. The first thing that you have to do is talk to Raider. He's going to be the first character that you talk to in Duchess's Remembrance Quest. He's going to ultimately give you some objectives as we go through here. And after talking to Raider, you're going to go into this room here and then down this hallway, and you're going to go talk to Wilder next. And of course, he seems to be upset about something, so we're going to have to grab something for him on an expedition, and we're going to move back to talk to Raider again, and this is where we're going to be giving an objective. We're going to get an objective here that we have to complete on an expedition. Now, I have some advice for this that I've mentioned in previous remembrance guides. If you queue up in solo mode, you don't have to actually complete the expedition. You don't have to defeat the final boss. You can actually lose at night 1 or night 2. It does not matter. As long as you finish, you'll be able to still finish the objective. So sometimes for these, I queue up in solo mode because it's easier than dragging a bunch of randoms across the map to the objective, for me personally. Now, for this one, it's not too hard. We're going to have to run up and go grab this item. It'll be marked on the map, of course, as all the expeditions are always marked on the map, so you'll know exactly where to go. Usually it's in the opposite corner of the map, so pay attention to that when you land. I was able to do this one on day 1, and then I just lost on night 1 because I didn't have a lot of time for this guide in particular, and I wanted to go a little bit quick and get a remembrance done. So, of course, I was already thinking, you know what? Why not just lose on night 1 or whatever, and then I could just go right back and the objective's finished, and ultimately that's what happened. Now for these guys, I was a little bit of a low level at level 3 here. I would recommend a higher level to take them on, as I didn't do a ton of damage towards them. If I had spells or had grabbed any good staffs or anything with Duchess, because she has really good intelligence scaling, you could probably take them out a lot faster, and I'd highly recommend that route rather than the route that I chose. After defeating them, though, where the objective marker is, whether you get to that on day 1 or day 2, you're going to grab the golden dew, and then we're going to go back to the round table hold. And back at the round table hold, you're going to talk to Raider again, and you're going to talk about the weather vane, which is what your objective was, what you're going for, essentially, as you move on here. I just exhausted his dialogue. I'm not sure if this is a requirement or not, but after him, of course, you're going to then go and talk to Wilder. These are going to be the two main characters for this quest, and eventually Revenant gets squeezed in there as well. And it's going to be those three, really, that are going to be heavily involved in Duchess's quest. Now we're going to exhaust Wilder's dialogue completely, and we will get the Faded Iron Coins. So there's not going to be much more to talk about after that. If you want to exhaust his dialogue, just in case, I do that fairly frequently. And then after talking to Wilder, of course, the next objective really is going to be seeing the Revenant. And I believe there might be an item you have to click on to show that she's available to talk to you. I can't remember whether or not I had to click on something, but either way, the next one you're going to have to talk to is going to be Revenant, who's going to be out here in the woods, and then you're going to progress your quest from there. It's not too difficult. You're just going back and forth between a couple of characters, although later in this remembrance guide, you will eventually have to fight Revenant again, so keep in mind if you fought her when you unlocked her, which was a little bit of a challenge. I'll go over that later. It could be challenging again because you're going to have to do that fight again as Duchess, essentially. But back to this, we're going to move on from here, talk to the Iron Menial after Revenant, and we're going to exhaust his dialogue entirely. And once his dialogue is completely exhausted, you'll be able to conclude this remembrance after going back and forth through a couple characters after doing the expedition. Not too bad there. Make sure that you do everything I talked about on screen. And we are now going to be moving into Chapter 5. Alright, so for Chapter 5, I believe this chapter is actually relatively short. This shouldn't be too difficult to do this one. I got the footage a couple nights ago. I didn't have a lot of time again. I had like 2 or 3 hours, so I had to kind of run through it. But I was able to finish it fairly quickly because I played it to just a decent amount. For this one, you're going to have to click on these things that I'm showing here. They're going to guide you outside to find Wilder. There's 2 of them, I believe. I don't know if there's any more necessary that you have to click on them. But essentially, you click on both, and then you go around the backside of the round table hole to the right from the dining area, and you will find Wilder outside. You're going to talk to Wilder, and he is going to offer you to eat his pita bread, if that's how you say it, and you're going to choose to eat the bread. That's going to be how to continue this remembrance. So eat the bread, and then afterwards, we are going to end up talking to Wilder again here, who again seems really sad for most of this quest. Some of the remembrances are generally tragic and a little bit kind of, the normal depressing Souls-like lore. Even though it's a roguelike, it still has the typical From Software lore. It is interesting, though. I did skip through a lot of the dialogue for this one, and she doesn't get like an incredible scene or anything, which is a little bit of a downer there. But anyways, next up, we are going to have to find the next character that we need to talk to, which will end up being the Iron Menial, and we are going to tell the Iron Menial that we've eaten the pita bread. And really, this is kind of pretty much this chapter. It's not too complicated or hard to figure out. There's a couple things they leave out for you. You find Wilder, you eat the bread, you talk to Iron Menial, and then you could conclude the remembrance. It's really that simple. This one is not by any means complicated, and probably the easiest chapter that she has in which you have to actually do anything. Now we're going to be moving on to the next one that involves an expedition, and it gets a little bit more difficult here. We are now going to talk about Chapter 6. And for Chapter 6, we are jumping in right now. It is going to be the next expedition one, as we mentioned, and it's not too complicated here. It's nothing too crazy in terms of what we have to do, but this one is a little bit more difficult in my opinion. The first thing that we have to do is talk to the raider again. He's going to end up giving us an objective that we're going to have to find once again on an expedition that I recommend solo queuing for. If you're having a hard time dragging 3 players over, you want to get this done quicker, you could always do it in solo mode. You don't have to beat it, keep that in mind. Even if you lose after beating the objective, you will still get the objective done. It still counts even if you lose afterwards. Keep that in mind. So sometimes it's a lot easier to queue up in solo mode, and it was just easier for me to do that in general and to make the guide quicker. Alright, so these guys are a lot tougher. They're going to appear at the end of the map, on the opposite end of the map of where you start again. They're a little bit more difficult to get to. I got there on, I believe, day 2, so it was a little bit longer for this one. I really wanted to get there on day 1. I just couldn't make it in time, unfortunately, where it spawned me. But yeah, this one's a little bit more difficult. As Duchess, I had a little bit more of a hard time with these guys because I should have brought spells with me. It would have made this so much easier. These guys have really high poise, which makes them very difficult for Duchess because she typically can't break any of their moves. It's not like playing as Wilder where you can interrupt them, or Raider consistently. You can't really interrupt them much at all. I'm not really running status effects either, just running this with a regular dagger. So yeah, this is one where you're probably going to want a couple levels, especially as Duchess. If you don't have a couple levels, then go for spells, cast, etc. It's going to be easier to take them down that way. Keep in mind, she's got really great intelligence scaling. I mentioned that earlier. That's going to be huge for taking these guys down rather than run the dagger route that I ran. Now, I didn't have a ton of difficulty. They took me a total of 1 try, same as the one earlier. But you can see on screen I did struggle with them a little bit more than the Golden Dew one because they are more challenging for Duchess specifically. After defeating them, you're going to have to pick up the item. And then, of course, once again, you do not have to beat the run. You can't leave, but if you lose at any point, it still counts as long as that objective is achieved. Alright, next thing that we have to do here is we're going to have to find the Raider again, I believe here, to talk to Raider and to tell him that we were able to find what we were looking for and finish his expedition. And we were going to talk about the Weather Vane's message because that's what we found. And then he's going to tell us sort of what to do from here. Everything is rather vague with all of these, but that's why I'm here to help you and guide you through this. And of course, he's going to give you an option for a path and whatnot. And then you're going to follow me on screen from here after exhausting Raider's dialogue. I mentioned this earlier, exhaust the dialogue to make sure that they're done talking and I can move on to the next step. I want to mention this. If you can't find the characters, they're located on the map. They're going to be on the map here. It's easy to find. So you look around for who you need to talk to next. Ultimately, I am going to need to head towards Revenant next. So keep that in mind. When you have the map, it makes your life a little bit easier. Now, this is the part where I'm going to have to fight Revenant, and she is a little bit tough, so I'll go over this fight as much detail as I can. This took 3 tries for me, nothing crazy, but if you had a hard time with her initially for that fight where you have to unlock her, you're probably going to struggle with this one a little bit too, because it feels like an even more confined space because the walls around the arena are relatively short. But yeah, let's fight her and go over this real quick. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is get rid of the one that's most likely to hit you. He's going to poke at you like the entire time. So I wanted to get him out of the way first. I wasn't exactly perfect in fighting him, but he doesn't do a ton of damage, especially if you're counterattacking him. After that, go for the second biggest one here. That is going to be, I can't remember their names for the life of me, but I don't know. I think Sebastian's the big one. Can't remember which one this is. But yeah, take this one out, the pumpkin head, because he's going to be the next one to go attack you and, you know, try to do a lot of damage on you. Now, you need to get the skeleton out. In the original fight, I didn't have to get the skeleton out. Here, he seems to just beam you constantly, and it is not worth dealing with. Take him out first. Use your ability for the added extra damage to replay the last 2 seconds of damage. Take him out, and then it's going to be you versus Revenant, and it's going to make your life a lot easier because she has low poise. She's very easily knocked back. Even with a dagger, it does not take much to knock her back. I have the boss relic that changes affinities too. It gives you a little extra damage for this fight. She has Death Lightning. You can interrupt that, but you do not want to stand in it because you don't want to end up with too much Death Blight. I had that happen the first time to me. She can actually stack that fairly quickly if she does it twice in a row, and she will. She is very much a spam attacker by all means. But dodge your attacks, stay sort of close to her, not too far away, just the right amount away so she doesn't spam you too much. She goes for her regular attacks. Basically bait her, and you'll be fine after you get rid of her 3 summons. And then, of course, after beating her, you can continue on with Duchess's Remembrance, and there's not too much left at this point. I'll walk you through it. There's really only one major thing to do after this point. Hers is relatively easier, much like Executor. I did not find hers too difficult overall. It was actually kind of a relief going through this one and finding it as easy as it was. On a random note, if these remembrance guides are helping you, be sure to sub. Don't forget to sub, comment, like, share, etc. And let me know what your favorite character is in Elden Ring Nightreign. I think I've done 6 remembrances in total. So I've got 6 down, 2 to go. Now we're going to begin the remembrance for Chapter 8. This is going to be the final thing that we have to do here. Alright, now for Chapter 8. We just mentioned we're jumping into Chapter 8. This one isn't too bad. We're going to be finishing up really quickly here. So you're going to have to bless the iron coin. You're going to do that at the round table hold. Not too complicated. You walk up, and I was on an Xbox controller. You hit the Y button. Not too bad at all. After that, though, there is going to be a little bit of walking back and forth. Make sure you don't accidentally queue up afterwards. That almost happened to me there. And then you're going to read a couple of notes around, and it's going to tell you that the crypt essentially is going to be opened up, and the Iron Menial wants to talk to you in the crypt. The crypt, if you don't know, if you haven't done any of the other remembrances, is exactly where I'm going. You can follow me on screen. It's going to be down these 2 sets of stairs, and these doors will unlock, and the Iron Menial will be down here to talk with you. And once we talk to him, he's going to tell us that we have to do one more thing. We're going to have to talk to one more character here. So make sure you exhaust his dialogue completely. We're going to give him the blessed coin. And then he is going to tell us to talk to Wilder. Of course, Wilder was a big part of the Duchess Remembrance Quest, so it makes sense to have to go back to him. And this is where there's just a little bit of running around. We're going to now have to go back to Wilder real quick and talk to him after exhausting Iron Menial's dialogue here. Want to mention too, by the way, if the other 2 remembrances I have, Recluse and Raider, if you want to see either one of those first, comment that below as well. They're the only 2 I have left, and they're all in a playlist now too, if that makes your life easier. So 6 down, 2 to go. I was thinking of doing Recluse next, but yeah, Recluse or Raider, let me know which one you want to see next. But follow me on screen. We're going to go to the opposite, that other room on the other side, where you change your outfits, and then of course we're going to talk to Wilder here. And, you know, a little bit of like somber moments and whatnot because, you know, all this stuff is kind of depressing. But anyway, talking to Wilder, we are going to exhaust his dialogue again. And after exhausting his dialogue, really the last thing to do here is to go back to the Iron Menial, who's going to be in the same place. He didn't change locations at all. He's going to be down at the bottom of the crypt again, where we can exhaust his dialogue and we can get on with getting Duchess's Remembrances done. And honestly, it's really exciting getting them done because you get a lot of really great relics and, of course, another remembrance down. Alright, so exhaust his dialogue completely, and that's going to be pretty much it for Duchess's Remembrance. I'm going to show you here what you end up getting at the end. But yeah, always exhaust the dialogue entirely. There's the remembrance. And now, of course, we are going to hit Conclude Remembrance to finish that chapter and move on. And then next time you go to the journal, which is what I'm going to show here, it's going to show chapter 9. You're going to have chapter 9 unlocked, but that's it. It's pretty much over at this point. You get the Blessed Iron Coin. You have her relics, everything that you can get. Chapter 9's unlocked. That'll be the final thing there. Her remembrance is now complete. Duchess is done and over with. I hope this guide helped you. If it did, don't forget to subscribe. Let me know which remembrance you want to see next, and I will catch you in the next video.